Greetings, future corpses. Welcome to our annual AA meeting. The AA, of course, meaning After Death Association. It's lovely to see you all made it here tonight alive. Unfortunately, that means there will be no live demonstration. Tonight's death special is entitled Embalming for the No Longer Living, where I, your host, will take you down the path of death preservation. Our destination? A funeral that hopefully doesn't involve leaking fluids, open mouths, or smelly caskets. Our first step begins with preparing the body and picking it up if we have to. Then we'll move on to setting the features, and finally get a little more personal as we move on to the arterial and cavity stages of embalming. So let's get into it. After all, death waits for none. First things first. Our lovely corpses don't just magically appear on the slab, ready to be pumped full of formaldehyde after death. Though it would be convenient if they did. Oftentimes when someone dies, the funeral home has to pick them up. Everplans suggests that the ideal temperature to store a body is 40 degrees or less. After all, you gotta keep the body from decaying, and lower temperatures does this successfully. Unless the body is requested to be embalmed later, the process begins soon after arriving back at the funeral home. The mortician will undress the body and begin to clean it in a disinfectant solution. A corpse is pretty gross. Not only do you decay, but after you die, your body releases all the fluids and gas stored up inside. All that together doesn't exactly create a fresh rose scent. Then, as the embalmer cleans the body, they will massage the joints and muscles caught in rigor mortis. When your bacteria in your body begins to break cells down, it releases calcium, which can lock up your muscles. The embalmer must get rid of this. After all, you gotta be loose and limp for all your loved ones to come look at you. So, you basically get a free full body massage day after you die. Well, not so free for your loved ones. After the body is cleaned and fully stress-free, the embalmer will typically move on to setting the features, because no one wants a shocked-looking corpse staring up at you while you get all up in their internal organs. Contacts will be removed and replaced with new ones called eye caps. They're essentially eye contacts, but with little ridges on them to keep your eyelids closed. After a corpse's all-seeing eyes have been closed, the mouth is close to follow. Typically, embalmers like to use a sewing needle to keep the mouth closed. A needle will be inserted into the jaw and through the nostrils, and finally, tied in the nose. And there you go, the mouth is just pulled shut. Though, some other companies prefer to use more natural ways. For example, Frigid Fluid Company recommends a vinyl plate called a natural expression modeler. The plate is inserted in the mouth, and the embalmer uses glue to attach wires through the holes in the vinyl, essentially creating braces, except not aligning teeth, but for keeping your mouth closed. After the features have been set, we move on to the more surgical portion of the process, the arterial stage of embalming. The embalmer will make 2 incisions, one in the carotid artery and one in a vein. The embalmer will then use a machine to mix a concoction of fluids to be pumped through the body. A regular embalming will take up to 2 gallons of this fluid. The main ingredient in this fluid is formaldehyde, though legacy states that other chemicals like water tend to be added. Then, as the fluid is pumped into the body, the blood is pumped out through the vein. The purpose of this is to give the corpse more color. Everyone's skin has a reddish tint to it due to the flowing blood underneath. Though corpses' blood doesn't flow, it pools, creating purple blotchy spots on the bottom and pale parts on the top. This process simply makes the dead look more lively. To ensure that every part of the body is fully colored and looks right, no purple fingers or anything, the embalmer will then close the vein and artery, and then proceed to drain the blood. What just happened? Okay, then proceed to drain the blood into the sewer system. So good luck living with the idea that embalmers regularly drain a human's worth of blood down the sink. Soon after the arterial embalming is finished, they'll move on to the cavity stage of embalming. Embalmers will start with an instrument called a trocar. Essentially a long, hollow tube with a seal on one end and a point on the other. The embalmer will insert the trocar just above the belly button and use it to puncture the upper cavity organs, such as the lungs, heart, and other organs. Then the trocar will be removed and inserted the other direction to puncture lower organs, such as the bladder. All this fluid will be removed and replaced with cavity embalming fluid. This embalming fluid is much stronger than arterial embalming fluid, and it reacts a lot faster. It's used to fill that empty space that was once in your body, created by said now punctured organs and gases. Then, the hole will be sealed with a plastic cap called a trocar button, essentially a free belly button piercing or a cork for your cavity. Well, congratulations! We made it to our final destination. The process of prepping the body, setting the features, and the arterial and cavity stages of embalming are extremely complicated and can take a long time. Embalmers give a lot to their job. A traditional embalming can take from hours to days to complete. And not to mention, we'll always need people who can handle the dead. Knowing the steps to your own funeral, or anyone's really, is important in your lives. So, future corpses, remember to stay curious as you go on your own exploration about death. Thank you for joining us for tonight's special. We hope you enjoyed the show.